Hello, everyone. My name is Julieta, and I'm a project manager at the Department of E-Education at Hachette. Our team develops digital solutions for publishers in the education sector, and we provide commercial and technical support to more than a dozen publishers, both within the group and outside of the group. And, well, part of our mission is fostering innovation and staying aligned with the evolving needs in the education sector.
And I'm Vincent. I'm the head of the research and development team at Hachette Livre. So mainly I work at the trade side of Hachette Livre, but now you know there is an education side. We are also distributors, so we have a lot of tools for metadata and all kind of stuff. But today we will focus on book production and ebook production. And the idea we had last year about how we can use web publications as a pivot format. So before we talk about web publication and pivot format, I would like to start with why we think about pivot format today, which will be very similar to the previous presentations. So we have the same reflections together about what we can do today. We will talk about our proposal, specific challenges for educational content, the choice of republication, of course, and the first initiatives we have right now at Hachette Livre. To begin with, the presentation about our reflection, I would like to exchange a point of view as a technical guy in a publishing house about the last 10 years we had in terms of producing ebooks. And we can see the last 10 years for the French market at least as a period of stability. I explain why I think it was a period of stability. So no innovation. Stability means no innovation, which is not great. About the book production process, you will have a print-first production, a print-first workflow, really homothetic. So you start with the manuscripts, the Microsoft Word from the authors. Then you have the editorial transformation mainly done in InDesign. And after that, you have the PDF for the print version. And depending on the output format, you may come from the PDF to produce the ebook, or you use the InDesign or editorial transformation tool you have to produce the EPUB or the ebook in general. For Hachette, in France at least, we have not only EPUB referable, we talk a lot about EPUB referable, which is mainly for literature, fiction, main books with a lot of text and some non-textual objects like images. So we have EPUB referable, of course. We also have EPUB fixed layout, text and image. So text is basically like a PDF, and when you have practical books or travel guides or cookbooks, something like that, you will have you want to keep the complex layout because it's part of author's creation. And because of that, we tend to produce EPUB fixed layout. So the first to initiate a fixed layout for EPUB was Apple, so it was part of the it wasn't part of the standard in 2010, but we still produce EPUB fixed layout the same way we produce EPUB 2 fixed layout Apple in the old days. The main difference is we have EPUB 3 now, but it's mainly the same logic to produce EPUB fixed layout. And for very illustrated books and for comics, mangas, and bande dessinée, we use fixed layout image, so mainly it's images encapsulated in HTML inside one EPUB file. And it's great for very specialized e-retailers. So when they only sell bande dessinée, comics and mangas, we have that kind of EPUB file. So it's part of what the market wants, and this is why we still produce EPUB fixed out images. The first EPUB fixed out image, the first EPUB fixed out image files I produced for Hachette was in 2011. It was the first time we produced in EPUB 2. It was Walking Dead and a lot of comics at that time. And this is still the same way we produce EPUB fixed out image today. So PDF to fixed out image. No new, no innovation in particular, at least for the French market, for the trade French market. So very, very stable. But I feel like, I don't know you, but I feel like a wind of change. At least for two main reasons. There are a lot of explanations I could have for this wind of change. But when we have all those digital publishing summits, when we talk about accessibility, and for Hachette Livre, we have the European Accessibility Act, so we have a deadline, a short deadline, which is the 2025 for the EAA enforcement. And for that first deadline, it's only new publications. It's not the backlist, as mentioned earlier. But we also have to think about 2030. So the first deadline is in 2 weeks. Are we ready for that? Let's talk about it a little bit. We are ready for EPUB referable, but not for the rest. That's why we have these mechanisms called exemptions. So we can use 2 exemptions for European Accessibility Act. The first one is disproportionate burden. For example, if you have a lot of images and you have to describe them and you don't use AI, it could be a really intense work. Or you can use fundamental alteration of the content, which can be used, for example, for mangas, if you have to adapt it, like audio description for a movie, for example. So you can use the other exemption for that. And the problem for European Accessibility Act is that it's binary. So you are accessible or you are not accessible. There's no partial accessibility for the European Accessibility Act. So for EPUB referable, we can have the level for EAA, so we can be fully accessible, but not for EPUB fixed out and not for PDF. So we still have work to do for new publications and for the backlist. And for the backlist, I have a great timeline, which is the simplified version of the timeline. I only put EPUB check and EPUB at the top of the timeline, and EPUB accessibility and Ace by Daisy at the bottom of the timeline, to illustrate what all the issues we have when we talk about the backlist. I put some colors to help you. So there is maybe 4 periods of time in this timeline that is important. First, EPUB 2.0.1. So this is maybe the first main EPUB version we use to produce massively EPUB files in France. Just after that, and the first release of EPUB check we use for Hachette. Just after that, EPUB 3.0. So that's why that's when I started to really work on EPUB for Hachette, from my own experience. And as you can see, there is a red arrow between EPUB check 3.0 and the first release of EPUB check that can validate EPUB 3. So it means, as a publisher, we couldn't validate our files using EPUB check during 2 years. That was an issue, so that's why there was a slow adoption. It's not one of the only reason, but that's why we have a slow adoption of EPUB 3. in France and in general, because we needed EPUB check. We still need EPUB check. That's why open source and open standard strong. So that was one first explanation when we have a slow adoption. And there is another red arrow just at the bottom of the first one, which means the gap between EPUB 3 and EPUB accessibility. 6 years before we really have a standard to talk about accessibility in EPUB 3. So there is no, even if EPUB 3 can be accessible, in terms of European Accessibility Act, there is no, we have to be binary, there is no accessibility for all the production we have at that time. And we follow all the releases of EPUB check, all the releases of EPUB standards and S by Daisy, with sometimes the bugs and the evolution. So our production is really related to this timeline. And the problem is it's always or often one-shot production. So one ebook in 2014, for example, is still a file from 2014. And we have to reproduce it according to the last release of EPUB check, last release of EPUB 3, and EPUB accessibility and ACE by DAISY. And that's a big issue because you can't have a tool from EPUB 2 to EPUB 3 and that's it. You have to deal with all the different kind of production you have during the past to be ready for EPUB, for European Accessibility Act 2030. And I don't talk about images. This is another issue. So based on that, we did a great job to prepare 2025, that's sure. We have all the metadata, etc., but we still have work to do. And we have a new challenger, which is generative AI, and we don't know what will be the future between books and AI in terms of innovation. And if I put the anti-piracy hat just for a moment, we don't know how we will protect creative works and books from generative AI. We don't know exactly how we will protect in the future. So we have to be prepared for the European Accessibility Act, and that's great to work on accessibility, and for artificial intelligence and maybe other new waves for ebook production. So that's why there is a wind of change, and we think about it, and based on the first workflows I showed you, we think it's time to imagine new workflows, new way to produce our content. And this is our proposal. So we come from a very linear workflow to a single source of truth. We keep the author's work as it is today, so there is always Microsoft Word somewhere, but we have a black box where we put our pivot format. And why we still have the editorial transformation? Because sometimes we still need InDesign. So we have to keep a relation between InDesign and our new solution, which is the pivot format. So if we keep InDesign or an editorial transformation with human review, human work, we will have the classic print at the top of the schema. And if not, or for all the other outputs, we will have the new pivot format. It's our proposal to deal with all the outputs we can imagine. So EPUB and PDF as usual today, but instead of producing EPUB fixed layout, start to produce EPUB reviewable for practical books and maybe after manga, bande dessinée, comics, and so on. A new way to print the books. I will talk about it in the first initiative. So it's really related to print on demand. And we can imagine other new outputs for a human, for example, granularity. So how can we split books into new content? and new outputs for machines, of course, for AI. The main criteria for the pivot format, so there's a couple of ones. We keep 3 of them. We wanted, and we still want, an existing open standard based on XML or HTML. We don't want a proprietary format. We have a lot of proprietary formats already in Hachette, and we want to replace proprietary formats to an open standard, to be able to share our work with others in the end. So if it works, we would like to share at least how we use the pivot format and, if possible, the tools. We want a solution that is expandable and scalable with medium complexity if possible. We don't want to work a lot, even if we have to. So we want this pivot format for all kinds of books, resources, and workflows, and packageable. So we can package HTML in a lot of ways, but we would like to have a packageable solution, mainly to store the pivot format in our DAM or other storage systems we use at Hachette Livre.
So I'm moving on to educational resources. I just want to give you a feel of the scope we're working with. So today we have a diversified content base that is mainly consists of textbooks. And they are available, I mean, they're multilingual, they span K-12 curriculum, and they're available as a fixed layout format, which is often enriched. That means that it includes media content, such as audio files, video files, and interactive content as well in the form of exercises. And we also have a second format, which is a reflowable-like format. So it's a proprietary format that is based on the EPUB reflowable specification with some custom attributes. And so the way that these textbooks are commercialized, they can be commercialized under as a single fixed layout format or as a hybrid, a dual format. So spanning both the fixed layout version and the reflowable version. And then to a lesser extent, we also have teaching resource packs, which are curated collections of resources. So spanning the types of resources, the formats we explained before, so media content, interactive exercises. So this could be video files, this could be songs, this could be video extracts, and interactive HTML interactive exercises. These are designed to help teachers deliver lessons more effectively. And they're typically seen as a companion to textbooks. And then we have interactive learning paths, which are sequences of interactive activities, which are designed to foster independent work on the part of students. And they're all web-based. And so in the current state of things, we have a traditional workflow that is pretty much what Vincent was explaining just before. So it's based on the print production, and so it starts as a manuscript being included in an InDesign file, and then the fixed layout will follow, and then the reflowable version will appear as a derived product, let's say, or a derived production from the print version. So this approach obviously has some disadvantages, right? It's very time-consuming to read each source. And also, because we're dealing with multiple sources, you can imagine the amount of effort it takes to make corrections. So if there is one mistake in one of these sources, then it means we have to manually go and make all the corrections across all different sources. And even this is being a manual effort, is also error-prone, so it doesn't guarantee consistency across the whole base of contents. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about this target solution that Vincent was presenting, right? This target production format and what it means for the educational resources. So for us, it has obvious advantages in the sense that it allows us to have, the fact of having a centralized repository of content actually allows us to have a centralized also control of assets, digital assets, which in turn allows for usability of content across products. And it's also better suited for multi-channeled distribution of content. And also because we're looking into open standards, W3 standards, this ensures long-term accessibility and interoperability. And moving on to the challenges. Well, you might have seen that we have a variety of resource types. So we have to ensure that all this content that is formatted differently actually arrives safely into this centralized repository with minimal loss. This is quite a challenge, technical challenge, I would say. And then the second one is a reading order. So it's something that Ken from Circular Software was showing us yesterday. So you might have seen that is in this fixed layout, educational resources, the fact that the layout is so complex that the reading order of the elements is not as straightforward. So it's hard to automate actually and linearize this order, right? And so, well, that's one of the challenges. And then the third one is bringing some order in the house as regarding practices and in design, right? So there's a bit of rock and roll situation going on. And so the idea is actually to provide guidelines for all producers of content and to align everyone into the same way of producing content design so you can actually properly exploit this content and be able to actually put in place this automated workflow. And the next point relates to e-learning. So we know that digital textbooks have become increasingly intertwined with e-learning systems, such as learning management systems and learning record stores. So one of the challenges is actually being able to push content directly into these platforms and to different granularity levels. And the last one is about having a semantic backbone for this base of content. So moving towards a formalized representation of the conceptual structure of disciplines. And these registers can be encoded into a knowledge graph. And so, for example, when a reader encounters a term like photosynthesis, the book can dynamically link to semantically related concepts like oxygen, for example, or chlorophyll in English. I don't know. And anyway, this kind of navigation, deeply enhances personalized learning experiences. And well, the knowledge graph can also be used to power intelligent search systems, and well, provide a personalized learning experience in general. And now we're moving on to a little bit of a study we've made with Vincent. We reviewed some open standards to find the better candidate for a production format. And this is the list of open standards we looked into. So as Vincent has, they're open standards and they're based on XML and HTML. We first excluded DTBook on XML T5. And so we produce a benchmark actually on the remaining formats. So we have actually, the first column is the list of criteria. This is not an exhaustive list of criteria. We have some others, but for today we decided to just present these ones. And so we first reviewed data. So one of the strengths of data, as you may know, is its modular approach. So the possibility of breaking down content into reusable and standalone components. So this is a big thing in learning granularity. And then, well, because it's such a well-established standard, it also has a rich ecosystem of tools and workflows. And however, we ended up excluding data because of its complexity. We found that it enforces some strict topic types, and we considered this demanded more technical effort for authoring and transformation. Then we reviewed DocBook and HTMLBook, which are both have the advantage actually of being turned directly to the book model, so they support detailed document structures. However, we also ended up putting it aside because we found that there was less native support for multimedia content and also no packaging standard. And so we arrive at EPUB and web publications. And so EPUB is already one of our in-house standards. We know it very well. But as Vincent has shown, it's also a standard that evolves actually sensible to changes over time, right? And web publications actually sits actually on standard web tools and is directly consumable by web applications and browsers. It also aligns very nicely with the evolutions in web technologies. And so, and the final decisive criterion was that of complexity again. So remember, we're looking for a medium complexity level in this production format. And so we found that some of the mechanisms in EPUB were somewhat elaborate, somewhat complex, and because web applications relies mostly on JSON and HTML, then our choice was finally made towards web applications. And then we have our little diagram that we can find the specifications about the structure of our web application. So it's mostly a collection of documents, HTML documents with a manifest, with a JSON file, which is equivalent to the OPF file. Right? And so I'm just going to finish this part about the education part. About our ongoing actions and the future perspective, so what we're doing currently in our department regarding this topic. So our team is conducting an impact assessment, so actually anticipating changes in tools and workflows, and also actually trying to describe the current metadata structure and how it would fit in web applications. We're also exploring solutions for injecting InDesign content into a web applications-based repository. We're also looking into CMS and DAM solutions for this production repository. And then we will be heading towards a proof of concept, actually, to validate this approach, and also transforming the existing content base. And then the last one, well, I don't say if it's one action in particular, it's more like global action regarding this project, but it's actually dealing with change management. And it's just to highlight the fact that this is not only a technical venture, but it's also a human one. And it relates to actually defining processes and defining tools that actually make sense to stakeholders. And bringing everyone on board in this new vision of production. And, well, I think that's pretty much it. So, let you with Vincent.
Okay, so a couple of initiatives we have done to finish the presentation. So we internally we are able to build some workflow components, and of course we have to convince first our publishers before we can convince the rest of the world that web publication as a pivot format could be the idea for the next years. So what we've done, say we first produce a web publication to EPUB that was previously fixed out, and they are now EPUB referable, so thanks to web publication. So we convert Microsoft Word to web publications. We loop on our web publications to upgrade the semantic markup, the accessibility, all the information we can have in our pivot format to be ready for all the outputs, and specifically here for the EPUB referable. It's based on our in-house framework, so it's proprietary. It's not open source, I'm sorry. And this framework is written in modern Python using Pydantic and other libraries in Python. We still work on this CSS part, but we have one publisher for that project, which is okay to publish EPUB referable in August. So we hope we will have the first EPUB referable that comes to web publication and are fully accessible, of course, around August. We also have a component to produce web publication to PDF or to print on demand. PDF, so all that kind of stuffs are automated component, automated workflows. There is no particular review or interface. It's just one or several automated workflow. So this one is web publication to PDF generated automatically using templates we've built. You can customize the fonts, the spacing, the margins. Everything can be customizable for the PDF, and it's based on Page.js presented by Adam yesterday. So we work a lot on Page.js for that kind of components. It's a fork. It's not directly Page.js, but it's really you can do that kind of stuff using Page.js pretty easily. So two initiatives. So for the pod part, we had the first release in February, and we work on the second release of the project to be able to produce print-on-demand books. For example, if you have only ebooks and not print version, we can use this kind of components to produce print versions, or you can adapt the content to other versions. For example, if you need a specific font or specific size of the characters. And next, we will talk a lot about remediating backlist. This is a work we have started without web publication, so we already have our framework to convert EPUB 2 and old EPUB 3 to accessible EPUB 3. But we have some issues. Previous presenters talked about it. Part of the workflow are still manual today because of the quality of the production we can have based on the timeline I showed you. And since last year, we work on our secret ingredient to remediate backlists, and which was the spark for our idea of a pivot format, because we need one unique and uniform structure of the content to use our secret ingredient, which are not generative, but is predictive. Don't say and we work on generative AI, of course, so we have workflow for images, and we want to improve those workflow for images. And we talked yesterday about RAG systems. So yesterday was more or less basic RAG system, and if you would like to have advanced RAG system, it's better not to use Markdown or plain text. I can talk about it. But HTML and XML is better. That's my point of view. It's debatable, but we can do better with XML and HTML, so web publication can be a solution for advanced RAG.
Thank you. Just a final word on this presentation. So we argued in favor of a new production form, a new production workflow, and an importance of a single source of truth to base our production. And we also presented web publications as our format of choice for this centralized repository, and because it's based mostly on JSON HTML, they are well supported by well-established systems. And so we continue our work to promote web publications internally. And we hope that this effort can be shared also outside of Hachette, and that we can actually connect in some way through web publications. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for this. So now we've got a break.